St. Paul's Church in New Bern, North Carolina, is a large, contemporary-looking structure in a modern subdivision near the Trent River. It doesn't look like a historic cradle of Catholicism, but the parish of St. Paul is more than 200 years old, and the current church's predecessor still stands in the historic heart of downtown. St. Paul's and Tar Heel Catholicism, this time on Catholic History Trek.
God bless America.
God love you. I want these to be my first words of greeting to you. They will be the concluding words on each broadcast.
I am not the Catholic candidate for president. I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president.
Annuncio optis Gaudium Magnum. Habemus Papam.
You've embarked on a Catholic History Trek.
For the most part, the immigration that catalyzed Catholic growth in much of the U.S. during the 1800s passed over the southeastern states. Catholics had been sparse in the Carolinas during the colonial period, and they remained sparse through much of the 19th century. While German Catholics flocked to the cities and farms of the Midwest, and Irish Catholics poured into the ghettos of the Northeast, few immigrants found their way to the agrarian South, where agriculture was dominated by slavery and industrial employment was scarce. There were pockets of Catholics, though, especially in the port city of Charleston, South Carolina, where a diocese was erected in 1820. From his pulpit in the Cathedral of St. John, the erudite John England attempted to persuade a resolutely Protestant South that the Roman faith was compatible with their political and cultural institutions. Bishop England exercised authority over a three-state area, Charleston being the only diocese in Georgia and the Carolinas, until the creation of the Diocese of Savannah in 1850. There was also one prominent Catholic in antebellum North Carolina. Born in 1778 in what was then the capital of the state, the historic town of New Bern, William Gaston was the son of a patriot who was killed during the Revolutionary War. His mother was a devout English Catholic. Gaston was one of the first students to study at Georgetown, the nation's first Catholic college, founded by Bishop John Carroll in 1789. Gaston embarked on a career in law and politics, enthusiastically taking the side of John Adams and Alexander Hamilton's Federalist Party against the republicanism of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Gaston's personal life was filled with tragedy. He was a widower thrice over by the age of 41, but his family life was enlivened by 5 children, 2 of whom were sent to the fine school run by St. Elizabeth Ann Seton in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Elected to the North Carolina legislature in 1800, Gaston served over the years in that body as well as the United States House of Representatives and the North Carolina Supreme Court. As a delegate to the Convention of 1835, which drafted a new state constitution, he successfully argued against a clause that would have restricted office holding to Protestant Christians. The chapel in his home was one of the state's earliest sites for Catholic Mass, and he led the project of building the state's first Catholic church, St. Paul's in New Bern. New Bern, located at the confluence of 2 rivers near the Carolina coast, was founded in 1710 by German-Swiss settlers. It was the capital of North Carolina in the 1770s and 80s and had a rich cultural and intellectual life. It was the state's largest city in the early 19th century. By 1820, the year of the establishment of the Diocese of Charleston, there were about 25 Catholics in the New Bern community, and Bishop John England visited the settlement in 1821, establishing the parish of St. Paul. In 1824, he appointed the first pastor, Francis O'Donoghue. With the cooperation of the parish vestry, including William Gaston, he raised funds for the parish's first church, and a lot was purchased on Middle Street. The humble wood frame structure, capacity 30, was completed in 1841, though its dedication was delayed by the death of Bishop England. Bishop Ignatius Reynolds blessed the edifice in 1844. In that same year, William Gaston died in Raleigh, but his memory endures in various ways. The name of Gaston County in the state's southwest, the name of the Gaston County seat of Gastonia, which is the home of a well-known Catholic publisher, Tan Books, in the William Gaston Science Building, which stands on the campus of Belmont Abbey College, also located in Gaston County, and finally, in North Carolina's state song, The Old North State, whose lyrics William Gaston composed in 1835. Carolina, Carolina, it begins, heaven's blessings attend her. While we live, we will cherish, protect, and defend her. In the 1850s, the parish's pastor reported that the congregation of St. Paul's was almost entirely converts. By that time, there was also a rectory. By 1868, the parish had grown to over 100 members. In the 1880s and 90s, the pastor was Father Thomas Price, a diocesan priest who would later co-found the Maryknoll Missionaries in New York. In New Bern, Father Price founded St. Joseph's School for Black Children, which was the basis for a new parish, St. Joseph, which would serve black Catholics. As in many other cities, New Bern's Catholics were racially divided through the 1960s, with whites attending St. Paul's and blacks going to St. Joseph's. There was also a school at St. Paul's, which was staffed from the 1920s by Immaculate Heart of Mary sisters. It was one of the sisters who raised the alarm in 1947 when the church suffered extensive damage from a fire, but was saved by the quick work of Sister Imelda and the local fire department. In 1965, the two parishes of New Bern were integrated into a single parish, St. Paul's. From that time, the original church was too small for the congregation, and masses were often held in a school gymnasium. In 1980, new land was purchased on Country Club Road, and construction began on a new school, convent, and 500-seat church. The new St. Paul's, a modern steel-framed building, was dedicated in April of 1983. This was a period of growth for the church in the South, which had prior to World War II lagged behind other regions, such as the Northeast, Midwest, and Southwest. North Carolina had gotten its own diocese in 1924, when the Vicariate Apostolic of North Carolina became the Diocese of Raleigh. It got its second with the creation of the Diocese of Charlotte in 1977. As the Tar Heel State continued to benefit from immigration from the North, the Catholic population of New Bern grew, and by the early 2000s, plans were made to expand the 1980s church, more than doubling its capacity. The first Mass in the renovated church was celebrated in September 2004. But the old church is still there on Middle Street, the simple rectangle modestly enhanced by a square steeple added in the 1890s. As the oldest Catholic church in the state, it qualifies as the cradle of Catholicism in North Carolina. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Thank you for listening to Catholic History Trek. You can reach us at catholichistorytrek@gmail.com.